All right, let's jump right in. We're diving into the wild, high-speed world of finance. It's a place that's already incredibly complex, but there's a new player in town that's not just changing the game, it's completely rewriting the rulebook. And that player is, of course, artificial intelligence.
So let's start with a really big question. Kind of the whole point of this. What if a machine could actually predict the financial market? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But here's the thing. It's a very real problem that some of the biggest quant funds out there are pouring billions, literally billions of dollars into trying to solve right now.
Okay, so to really get why this has turned into a full-blown AI arms race, we've got to understand the core problem AI is supposed to fix. And that problem, in a nutshell, is speed. The market moves at a pace that is just, well, impossible for a human.
And look, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Humans just can't keep up anymore. We're not talking about just being busy or having a stressful day. The sheer fire hose of data, the speed of the transactions, it's all happening on a scale that has completely blown past what our brains can handle. We're just, totally overwhelmed.
And this really breaks down that chaos for us. First, you've got just an insane overload of information. Then, you have transactions happening in milliseconds. But for me, the third one here is the real kicker. These hidden patterns buried so deep in the data that the smartest person on the planet could stare at it for a year and never see them. You mix all that together and you've got this perfect storm of complexity. And you're going to need a new kind of navigator to get through it.
So who is this navigator? Who's the one trying to bring some order to all this chaos? Well, that's where we meet the hero of our story, the AI architect. Or, to be a little more specific, the AI analytical system designer.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's a quote from Somu Sundaram M., someone who's actually doing this work. They talk about building tools to process vast data sets. Now let's be super clear about what vast means. Forget about a big Excel spreadsheet. We're talking about terabytes of data. Every single day. That's news feeds, stock prices, social media chatter, all of it getting sucked in and analyzed. This is the real nuts and bolts, the heavy lifting of building the future of finance.
So what does that actually mean? Well, think of the AI analytical system designer as the architect of an automated trading brain. They're the ones building the systems that can look at data, make a decision, and then act on it. So, for example, they might build a system that sees a sudden spike in Twitter chatter about a company, immediately connects that to a jump in trading volume, and then executes a trade. All of that happening before a human analyst has even finished reading the headline of the first news alert. It's that fast.
All right, so we've met the architect, but what are the tools of the trade? What are they actually building with? To get that, we need to pop the hood and look at their toolkit, at the core technologies that make all this possible.
First up, you have machine learning. And this is so much more than just coding. It's about teaching a computer to find patterns on its own. So instead of telling it, if this happens, then do that, you just feed it an absolute mountain of historical data. The machine then sifts through it all and starts finding these really complex connections that a human would never spot. Maybe it learns that a weird little fluctuation in currency markets combined with a tiny change in commodity prices is actually a huge red flag for a market downturn. Then, you take that machine learning and you build what are called predictive models. And thinking of it like a weather forecast is a good start, but it's way more detailed. It's like a forecast that doesn't just say, it might rain, but tells you there's a 90% chance of a downpour on your specific street corner between 3:05 and 3:15 p.m. In finance, a model might say there's a 78% probability this stock will hit this exact price in the next 35 minutes. That's a real quantifiable edge.
And finally, you have algorithmic trading. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the system actually doing something. It takes those predictions and automatically executes trades at speeds that are, well, they're just mind-boggling. We're not talking about seconds here. We're talking microseconds. That is literally faster than the signal can travel from your brain to your finger to click a mouse.
Okay, so we've met the architect, we've seen the tools in their toolkit. So how do they put it all together? How do you actually build one of these automated brains from scratch?
Well, it pretty much boils down to a four-step process. First up, you have to process all that data we talked about. And this is the messy part. It's not just downloading stuff, it's cleaning it up, organizing it, and getting it ready for a machine to actually understand. Step 2, you build the predictive models. This is where data scientists get to work, training the AI, tweaking it, and trying to make it as accurate as possible. Then, step 3 is designing the trading logic. This is super important. It's basically setting the rules of the game. When does it trade? How much risk can it take? And finally, step 4, you automate the whole thing. You set it loose to analyze the market in real time and do its thing.
So that's the how, that's the blueprint. But what's the payoff? What does this actually change? When you switch from people making the calls to these AI systems, what does that look like in the real world?
And this really lays it out, the before and after. It's a total game changer. You go from someone manually poring over data for hours to getting automated insights in the blink of an eye. Human intervention gets replaced with smart automation. And what does that really mean? It means all those missed opportunities, they now turn into profit. Think about it. A human trader might spot a tiny price difference between two markets, but by the time they can act, it's gone. The AI system sees it and executes the trade instantly, grabbing a profit that might have only existed for a fraction of a second.
The end result of all this is what the pros call high-frequency market insights. And that phrase is key. This isn't just about getting more data faster. It's about getting smart, actionable intelligence that lets the system react on the fly. For instance, a system could pick up on one tiny word change in a Federal Reserve announcement, instantly calculate the most likely market reaction, and rebalance an entire portfolio all in the same second that the news hits the wire.
So let's just boil down the key benefits here. First, you get way more efficient because you're automating tons of manual work. Second, your analysis is just better. You're seeing those hidden patterns we talked about. Third, with less manual work, you get fewer human errors and less emotional gut reaction trading. Fourth, the strategies are always getting better because the system is constantly learning from new data. And maybe the biggest one of all, you can adapt to a changing market almost instantly. That right there is a huge competitive advantage.
And that brings us to a final, really interesting question to chew on. As we build these incredibly powerful, data-driven brains, what happens to human instinct? You know, when every single decision can be optimized by an algorithm and every pattern can be found by a machine, what's left for that gut feeling? Is there still a place for the wisdom of an experienced trader who's seen it all before, or is the future of finance going to belong completely to the machines? It's definitely something to think about.